Hello and welcome to Track 3 on Esports as part of this year's Sports Capital Symposium presented by Venue Ties. We are about to have a fireside chat, Esports fan engagement, lessons from a digital-first sport. Our guest moderator is Claire Hungate, the President and Chief Operating Officer of Team Liquid, and Mark Vella is her guest. He's the CEO of Axiomatic Gaming. I'll let the two of you take it from here. Thanks so much for joining, everyone.
Thanks very much. Hello, everyone. We're excited to share a bit today about how Team Liquid is driving engagement with its fans across the world. As we imagine, some in the audience may not be as familiar with the world of esports, so we also wanted to give a little bit of an introduction to Team Liquid. Team Liquid is one of the premier global esports organizations with a 21-year history as the winningest esports org and currently competes in 16 titles. We actually thought we'd start off with a brief video that brings to life what Team Liquid is all about.
They are the only team to lift the trophy back to back to back to back, and they are the best team North America has ever produced. It's Team Liquid, the favorites coming into the tournament, have just unlocked the Intel Grand Slam and $1 million bonus.
That DG is done. Liquid will be the first team in the history of the International to whitewash the Grand Final.
That's it! That's it! It's champions!
Team Liquid, the Urban Champions!
Team Liquid, world champions!
A new kind of sport has emerged with huge appeal for millions around the world.
360 million people worldwide watched one League of Legends live stream event, more than 3 times the audience of last year's Super Bowl.
How do you measure the size of the esports market?
900 million to $1 billion.
It's the time when esports is taking center stage.
We beat our projections every year.
Double digits.
Let's go, Liquid!
We treat our business very seriously. Even though they're just games, for us it's a sport, it's a competition.
We feel a deep sense of responsibility to contribute what we can to an industry and a community that we love. So let's go Liquid.
Thanks very much. So my name is Mark Vella. I'm the CEO of Axiomatic Gaming. We are an investment platform that's focused on esports and video games. Axiomatic actually became the lead investor in Team Liquid about 5 years ago. We've had an incredible journey working closely with the executive team there, which I'm excited to dig into a bit today. And very happy to be joined today by Claire Hungate, who is our recently announced new president and COO at Team Liquid. We're thrilled Claire has decided to join the leadership team at Team Liquid, and also glad she's allowed us to interrupt her dinner this evening as she's joining us from the UK. So just to start things off, Claire, prior to joining Team Liquid last month, you'd spent the better part of your career in traditional media and entertainment. Tell us about what drew you to the esports opportunity.
Yeah, hi Mark. Lovely to be here. And thanks very much for having me. And I'm apologies that it looks as though I've been plunged into darkness. Looks like there's kind of a power cut here or something. I'm actually in quite a brightly lit room, so I don't know why it's so dark. So I apologise for that. But yeah, look, this is a hugely exciting space in the entertainment and content world. So I spent kind of 20 years in media and entertainment, mostly in TV production. So there was a kind of time in British TV production when TV productions were really, really highly valued, TV production companies. And so we started bringing together, aggregating these kind of boutique lifestyle TV production companies to create what became known as super indies. So, Shine, Endemol, that you probably know, All 3 Media. And I helped create one called Shed Media, which we went on to sell to Warner Brothers. And then, I kind of got to this point where I was getting just slightly frustrated by this kind of denial, I suppose, by the TV market to accept that it was losing audience, and the ratings for linear TV aren't actually falling off a cliff and won't do anytime soon because we've got quite an aging population. in the Western world, and so there is still a market for linear TV, but the young market has gone. The young market has left long ago to go to YouTube and Twitch and Discord and all the places where gaming rules. And so for me, I took a move away from TV and into the digital sector. I moved to run a digital marketing agency, an ex-MCN called Brave Bison, because I really wanted to understand those audiences, how they consumed content, where they consumed content. And I suppose, really importantly for me is how I monetize that content and those audiences. So I guess that's the kind of the narrative that I put through my career is following the audience. And I think it's fascinating that Reed Hastings, who's the CEO of Netflix, says he doesn't see his competitors as other networks or even other SVOD providers. He sees his competitors as gaming platforms and gaming publishers, and that's where the battle is for that really valuable Gen Z audience, which let's face it, is I think about 35% of the global population, and that's a really kind of valuable audience that we're all going after, and that audience is watching gaming day in, day out.
And it clearly wasn't a passing comment from Reed Hastings. Netflix has now done a lot to double down on and actually create a gaming division. So Netflix is certainly going after that same audience, no question.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm really interested in Axiomatic's take on this. Your investor lineup features some of the biggest names in traditional sports ownership, and Peter Guber, Ted Leonsis, Bruce Karsh, but also athletes like Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan. So, I'm really curious about where you find those areas of similarity and difference, I suppose, between the stick and ball traditional sports and esports team management. But also where you see those opportunities as being.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I mentioned earlier that Axiomatic was formed about 5 years ago, and it was really a group of like-minded traditional pro sports team owners that decided to make this investment. And I'd say there were kind of two of the key reasons that those founding members and investors decided to take the plunge into this crazy world of esports and invest in Team Liquid back in 2016 was because of number one, their belief in this accelerating growth in the global esports audience and this westward movement of something that was, started in Korea and expanded to China, was making its way west. They really thought this was the time to, take some of their knowledge and apply it to the space. And that was really the second point. They had this conviction that Axiomatic's deep knowledge and sort of experience base that these guys could bring from the business of pro sports entertainment, traditional pro sports, could be applied and could enable us to kind of lean into that network and those best practices to help Team Liquid grow and outpace the competition. And I think it's gone, pretty well over the 5 years of history of Axiomatic working closely with Team Liquid. To answer your question about some of the similarities and differences, first, some of the similarities that at its core, esports is about tribal fandom, just like traditional pro sports is, right? Ultimately, fans want to feel this sense of community and rooting for their favorite teams and players, waving their rally towels together, whether it's live in a stadium, sitting next to their fellow fans, or virtually. And esports has a little bit of both, right? They do have those tentpole esports competitions, like you saw in the video, where they will actually fill up pro sports arenas, but a lot of the competition also takes place online. Another similarity I'd say is the importance of sort of athletics and scouting and building winning rosters. It's incredibly important. It's paramount in esports, just like it is in traditional pro sports. And while it seems like traditional sports has had this huge movement over the last couple decades towards deep analytics, driving player evaluation, strategy development, I'd say esports is very similar in that it has an even heavier reliance on analytics for player evaluation and scouting and things like that. And if you think about the nature of esports games and these multiplayer online competitive titles, it literally allows for millions of data points that are being collected in every match. So we're scouting players from all over the world, and have a lot of data to help inform finding the best talent for our rosters. And then a couple of the key differences I'd call out. Number one is the business models do have some similarities. I'd say, in traditional pro sports, media rights are a much bigger part of the revenue pool than they are in esports today. We think that's one of the areas of big upside. But there are, sponsorship is another area where both traditional pro sports teams and esports teams do generate the good teams generate a good amount of revenue from sponsorship. But it's different as far as the actual what that sponsorship looks like with the team, right? You'll have jersey placements now in the NBA. You do have that. That's more of a recent thing, and you'll have it in other traditional pro sports. You have that in esports. But what we don't have in esports is a physical arena and a huge banner, space to put a brand or sponsor's name, or as much kind of digital footprint in a physical stadium. Esports teams have to get more creative, and Team Liquid, for instance, has figured out how to produce really high quality content that features the sponsor or is brought to you by Alienware, for example, during live streams where our talent is streaming and engaging with fans, finding ways to integrate brands into that experience, and then live events and tournaments and things that we will put on. I also think within business, the framing of business models, I think esports teams have found more ways to some more kind of direct consumer revenue opportunities as well. And I still think there's a lot of room to grow here. But for instance, digital items, Team Liquid has the ability to sell inside a handful of games that we compete in a certain skin or kind of an outfit for your character that is Team Liquid or something like that. And so that's been an area of growth for Team Liquid, and I think is somewhat unique versus traditional pro sports teams. And then the other key difference to call out is, I think some of the biggest traditional pro sports teams have figured out how to attract a global fan base, or how to most traditional pro sports, they start with that local market. You're born in a city, you tend to root for, the teams in that city where you grew up. Esports teams don't have that, right? It's it's a much more kind of distributed model. Esports teams are typically, do come from a certain region or a certain state or city, but they're actually trying to go after a much bigger kind of global fan base, and you don't have that natural built-in affinity from a local market. So I'd say it's both an opportunity and a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, because that's what's so fascinating to me. At a time when everyone wants to go direct to consumer, you have something like esports, which is natively digital by its very nature. It is direct to consumer, so you immediately have that direct relationship. And whereas legacy sports teams are kind of running to catch up with that, we've got to go direct to consumer. We've got to know more about our audience. We've got to sell products directly. They've been, a little bit late to that because they've so kind of relied on things like media rights, which, some analysts will tell you, certainly in the UK, they feel the value of media rights is dropping. And so now traditional sports is looking for those new revenue streams. But esports is, endemic to digital. It is all about direct to consumer. So, fascinating that how different that part of it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Claire, let's talk some more about the core esports audience, right? The fan base for Team Liquid. Tell us a little bit about, what are the key characteristics of the core demographics of TL fans?
Well, look, we're overwhelmingly Gen Z and millennial. So I think about 82% of Team Liquid's fans are 18 to 34. Which is, probably about right for esports, about average for esports. Although we call ourselves multi-generational, so we still have a decent proportion of our audience that is, that's in that kind of slightly older age bracket. Quite a lot of esports teams will skew a bit younger. We're pretty kind of high income in comparison to other esports fans. So I think, there's some incredible statistics. Something like 44% of our US fans are considered to be in the high income bracket. We're quite educated as esports fans go. We're likely to have at least first degree, probably second degree as well. Overwhelmingly male, unfortunately, but we can go on to that later. We don't really consider ourselves a lifestyle brand, so you'll hear some talk in esports about some teams are just hoodie brands. We're not a hoodie brand. We do produce apparel, but for us, athletics comes first. It's about winning and being in the athletics, but also we are evolving into being an entertainment and content company. We've done a lot of work on our brand recently because brand is so hugely important. What is it you do and how do you do it? And some of the words that we've come to associate with our audience are humble, curious, well-read, passionate, friendly, humorous, have integrity and values. And that feeds through to the team's own values. We think it's important that we're always learning. We strive for sustainability, equity, and inclusion. So we're a team and an organization that have values, and our fans and our audience share those values, we believe.
Got it. So it's a younger audience versus traditional pro sports. It's tends to be more educated, more affluent. That all makes sense. Now, given the widely kind of dispersed and somewhat anonymized nature of our fan base, Team Liquid's global fan base, how can top esports orgs like Team Liquid ensure they're really seeing and engaging and retaining all of these fans across the globe?
Yeah, you talked earlier about tribalism, and that's what's so key to the sports audience and the esports audience. It is that passion, that willingness to kind of keep coming back despite what happens. So the great thing about esports is that it's so democratic. You can reach out through Discord or Twitch and you can speak to your favorite player. On Discord you can probably you can get a message through to the CEO of Team Liquid and get a response, or any of your favorite players that you're talking to constantly on Twitch. So that's hugely important, that continual engagement with your audience. And it's possible over time that might evolve. Business models evolve, marketing evolve, sports teams evolve. So as those business models change, will that kind of player first-hand contact with audience change? Maybe, but for us, we are engaging daily, all the time, minute by minute, hour by hour with our audience across social platforms. But of course, the thing about social platforms is you don't really own that audience. But what we have on those platforms is an organic audience, and that organic audience is the most valuable audience you can ever own. We haven't paid for them. They're not there because of advertising. They're there because they want to be there. They're loyal to us, and they'll keep coming back. So, once you have that audience on social platforms, then can you transfer them to platforms that you own yourself, where you can collect their data, understand more about them, and engage with them more directly. So that's one of the things we tried to do. But content, the right content on the right platforms, knowing which platforms your audience are on and how you tell stories on those different platforms, because that's different across different platforms. How you talk to that audience, what your voice is. And just constantly engaging. We have fan engagement teams, huge numbers of people and volunteers who are across Discord, Reddit, Twitch, Twitter, just talking to fans constantly and reacting to them and understanding the audience. One of the things I hated about TV was you're so far removed from your audience. You might deliver a show and it doesn't go out for 3 months, and it's you have the broadcaster sitting in between you. But the great thing about esports and about social media is you get that immediate reaction from your audience, and you have to you have to react to that as per what your audience are telling you.
Yeah, one of the best examples for me, or one of the things I'm most proud of that Team Liquid has done so well is building up this fan base in Brazil. And this is something that's been a really kind of conscious strategy that's been developed over the last handful of years, where they desired to enter the market, got into a game that was very popular down there, Rainbow Six, first-person team-based shooter game. And then also expanded this title, Garena Free Fire, which is the only mobile game esports title that Team Liquid competes in, and started to build this fan base and started to establish some operations down there. Some of these teams you talked about, Claire, specific content teams, social media teams based in Brazil, who are there with, understanding and listening to what those fans want and creating specific content for them. And then now today, Brazil is, as you know, the second largest market for Team Liquid. And it's really just a testament to this great strategy that they've executed down there.
Yeah, I mean, the engagement on those Brazilian platforms is huge, and the numbers we have on those platforms in Brazil is massive. It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely, and just continuing to grow every week, it seems. We'll talk to it. So you talked about the opportunities and the challenges that come with trying to get in touch directly with our fans through these social media platforms and figuring out where they're consuming content and kind of expanding from there. Maybe you can talk a bit about Liquid Plus, which was a big release by Team Liquid earlier this year to try to have even more of a one-to-one relationship with all our fans.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to work for an organization that is, so innovative, kind of constantly pushing forward. And, Liquid Plus is a fan engagement platform, but it's a fan engagement platform we've built ourselves with our own developers. So we own it. It's bespoke to us. And, if you like, it is our digital stadium. It is an owned and operated platform where we funnel our audience. I see social media as the top of the funnel. We funnel that audience through to Liquid Plus. People register, fans register, they take part in various quests. And for that, they are rewarded with Liquid Plus points. So, you then, as a Liquid Plus member who has a certain number of points, you're competing to be potentially on the back of the jersey of our in our League of Legends Worlds team. The incredible prizes like that, which of course people want to compete for. So the more you engage on the platform, the more points you can get. You can then swap those points for various rewards in the shop, or compete for those really big prizes like being on the back of jerseys. And obviously that means that we just have this incredible knowledge about our audience. And in the same way that on social platforms you don't own any of that data, you don't even get to see it. We are analyzing that data constantly. We can see what those people buy, what their user journey is, where they live, what age they are, their demographic, just this incredible understanding of our audience, which is just so valuable, and just amazing, that we developed it in-house and that we own that platform and that technology.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that it's only been live for a little over 6 months now, and certainly a lot of time, energy, and maybe a few dollars have gone into developing the platform, but really proud of what the team has developed. And just think this is kind of just the beginning of where we can go and really developing these kind of one-to-one relationships with our fans.
Also, really attractive to sponsors as well, of course, because reach is one thing, but engagement is another. And that on this platform, these people are super fans and they're highly engaged. So, that's an incredibly valuable audience for a sponsor.
Yep. Well, and I mentioned earlier, Team Liquid's history is, originally founded in 2000. It is today the winningest team in esports as far as total prize pools won and total championships won. And winning can only get you so far as far as building a huge fan base. Talk a little bit more about what else Team Liquid does to maintain and even kind of broaden its fan engagement beyond just having that winning legacy and continuing to field competitive rosters.
As I mentioned earlier, the Team Liquid brand is incredibly important. It's important to us that it's authentic to fans as well, and feels authentic. And so, we do a lot of work on the brand, understanding the audience, and ensuring that we are kind of being true to that brand. And I think that's really important with sports audiences and with kind of tribal fandom in general. Obviously, the content is hugely important. Being on all the platforms where those fans engage. Apparel. We've released quite a lot of. Done quite a lot of apparel drops, obviously taking forward the Team Liquid brand, but also we've done collaborations with other brands like Marvel and Naruto and Fortnite, and obviously in doing that you're bringing in other audiences as well, which is essential. We have a fan base, but we need to keep growing that fan base. So we need to understand our fans now, our brand now, but also how do we find new audiences, both in new geographies, but also just increasing the size of that fan base. So, we're constantly looking to do that through collaboration. Popular culture is all about collaboration. So, be that working with influencers and streamers, ambassadors that we're paired with, like Ariel Powers, who we work with very closely, the actor Asa Butterfield. We have ambassadors who are DJs. So, all these kind of areas of popular culture that we are, using to reach a new audience and be constantly engaging with that audience. That the mantra has to be, audience first, digital first, audience first. And as a sports team in this area, you have to be thinking about audience first, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've got a little less than 10 minutes left, and I'm actually seeing a couple questions that are coming in from the audience. So maybe we'll switch gears and actually take a few questions. One I see here is, what are some other lessons learned in fan engagement during COVID when LAN events weren't possible? Question from Eric. Thanks for the question. I'll kick it off, Claire, and you can add if you'd like. One of the things that going back to the question Claire asked me about what is unique about esports versus traditional pro sports. I'd say esports showed its resilience last year in a very challenging 2020 when many live events and pro sports competitions had to be shut down because it wasn't safe to have these teams competing in a live space like that. Esports, for the most part, had a 1 or 2 week delay, and these games can be played online and can be played remotely. So we were fortunate in that Team Liquid was able to, after literally a week's delay in League of Legends in the North American LCS, which we compete in, they were back up and running and competing. Just after that very brief delay. It still creates some challenges, though. There is something special about that live experience, that video I showed at the beginning. And for me, as an import to the world of esports a few years ago when I got into the space, for me, seeing is believing, and actually going to the International, which is the largest prize pool in all of esports, set to be a $40 million prize pool this year. It was at the Rogers Arena in Vancouver, the year I joined in 2018. And it was just incredible to see these passionate fans there cheering on their teams. And it was a pretty pricey ticket. So it showed the appetite that the fans had. So, I'll say those types of tournaments did get shut down last year. So the International didn't happen. The North American League Championship Series season finals had to be moved from arena setting. And that was tough. That was tough for both teams, the ones that fight their way through to compete in the finals, not to be able to be there with that live audience. But thankfully, we were still able to hold the competitions and crown a champion in each of those different games. The LAN events though are we're so eager to get back to those this year, and you're starting to see them in certain regions where it's safe enough that the teams can convene in person and actually compete. And I think there's more of that coming up actually in the next couple of months. But the team, to get back to Eric's question, what are the lessons learned in fan engagement? I think Team Liquid just had to lean in even more so into those digital channels, doing more content series, more AMAs, and more things like that, just to try to stay engaged with fans virtually while we could. But it was certainly tough.
But I think there's also been, as you say, some opportunities there, but opportunities to reach new fans and new sectors. So some of the events, the online events we've been doing, particularly in the education sector, with colleges, maybe with more diverse communities, it's given us a real opportunity to outreach to new audiences as well, that might not be in the stadiums, because we've had such a concentration on those digital events. So that's been an opportunity, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, would agree with that. We have one other question that's come in, and if anyone else has questions, please feel free to shoot them over to the moderator, and they'll feed them to us. Question about Liquid Plus: how has Liquid Plus impacted the overall fan engagement with Team Liquid? Have you attracted new members who have not engaged with the Team Liquid brand through the introduction of Liquid Plus? Yeah, I can share some initial thoughts. We already have kind of tiers of fans and different tiers of status that you can achieve, just like any sort of loyalty program that people are familiar with. But we do segment our players into into the different tiers of just total engagement and total points that they've achieved. We can definitely see some very clear signs that these tiers that have emerged, some super fans that were already just incredibly engaged with Team Liquid, watching several hours of content every single day. And we're seeing that those people are staying just as engaged. I think what's more interesting for us are some of those fans that were, moderately engaged, maybe talking to us or engaging on one or two platforms that have now expanded their consumption, expanded the different channels where they interact with us, with both kind of our teams when we're competing as teams, as well as some of our individual talent. So it's still early days for us as far as getting to more, cohesive kind of fan journeys and thinking about the different paths, but we're collecting all this data to understand what types of things are getting people to deepen their engagement with Team Liquid. Is it offering extra points if you watch this specific match or this content series or things like that? It's really just matching the content and the other apparel and things that we do to those fans to see what really resonates with them, and hopefully create that lasting fandom.
And also, I suppose, using opportunities like the big tournaments to find that new audience who might not be a Team Liquid audience, but we've got League of Legends Worlds coming up in a few weeks. We'll be looking to running a big campaign around that, CSGO majors just after that. So, looking to bring that a new audience, people who aren't necessarily fans of Team Liquid or our players, and using that big marketing campaign across social platforms to bring people into the fold and into Liquid Plus, just using these, just this kind of gamification of that user experience by getting them to, win points and then spend points. It's great.
Yep. And without giving anything away here, I will say that we're also looking at opportunities to increase or make it easier for people to access the platform. Today, it's only accessible on PC or via the web, and we'll be looking at ways to make it easier for fans to get access to the platform. So more to come on that, hopefully soon.
For sure.
Well, I think that's all the questions that have come in, Claire. I'll just kind of wrap it up. We've only got a couple minutes left. Just to say thanks very much for your time today. We're so thrilled to have you at Team Liquid to bring some of your amazing experience you've had in these other companies that you've done awesome things, and we're just thrilled to have you. So thanks to everyone for tuning in, and we'll be joining the networking session after this if anyone wants to chat one-on-one.
Thanks, Mark. Good night, everyone.
All right. Thanks, Claire.
Cheers.